Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to paint something really beautiful, a bright saturated red gemstone, similar to a polished ruby. I'll walk you through a simple step-by-step process, perfect for beginners and digital artists of any level. We'll go through all 9 stages from a rough sketch to shadows, facets, highlights, sparkles and final details. I'm using a Wacom tablet with Photoshop, but you can follow this tutorial in any digital art program: Procreate, Clip Studio, Paint, Krita. The technique is universal. Alright, let's get started. First step, we need a foundation. I start with a thin sketch brush and draw a simple oval shape. It doesn't need to be perfect. Gemstones always have slight imperfections. Next, I begin cutting into the shape, drawing lines that will become the stone's facets. I break the contour a bit, adding angular corners to create the look of cut crystal. Don't worry about perfection, this is just a structural sketch to guide the rest of the process. Tip for creating straight lines in Photoshop: select the brush tool by pressing the B key or the pencil tool by pressing the N key. Set the first point by clicking the desired location on the canvas. Without releasing the mouse button, hold down the Shift key. Move the cursor to the desired location to end the line and click to set the second point. A perfectly straight line will be drawn between the first and second points. To draw the next straight line, hold down Shift, click the new starting point and then click the ending point. Now I grab a solid brush and fill the entire shape with a medium red tone. Not too dark, not too bright. This will be our base layer. Remember to work on separate layers with things like this, so you can always go back and make adjustment if needed. I'm creating another duplicate of the ruby and organizing it into folders because it helps me in my work. I'm also doing this for you, so you can clearly see the progress of our stone on the screen. Then I reduce the opacity of the sketch layer so the lines are visible but not distracting. We should now have a clean red silhouette with a light structural outline. I take a darker red color and soft round brush. Since the light source is coming from the upper left, I shade the upper area and the right side of the gemstone. I softly blend the shadows to create a smooth, rounded volume. Don't be afraid of dark tones. Gemstones look the most beautiful when they have strong contrast. Now I switch to a more solid brush and begin painting the outer facets of the gemstone. I use a deeper red and carefully fill in separate planes. Each facet should have a slightly different value. This makes the stone look multifaceted and realistic. Leave the center brighter for now. We'll return to it later. Next, I choose an even darker shade, almost burgundy. With it, I darken only a few facets, usually 3 or 4. This represents the deepest parts of the stone. This step adds richness and structure, giving the gem a strong 3-dimensional feel. Now I pick a lighter, slightly pinkish red. With this color, I brighten the center of the gemstone and a couple of upper facets. Keep the highlights subtle for now. This is still the base lighting, not the final shine. This light creates the impression of inner glow, typical for polished rubies and transparent gems. I also added pink to the facets on the left side of the ruby. Since our ruby is a translucent stone, the light will fall and refract from the far left corner. This will accentuate the light and add volume to the gem. Here is where the magic really starts to show. I switch to a soft round brush and lower the opacity, usually somewhere around 15–25%. Sometimes instead of simply lowering the opacity, I use color dodge or screen mode to get a softer glowing effect without blowing out the colors. I pick a very light pinkish red, almost a desaturated rose tone. This color works well because it gently brightens the surface without clashing with the main red tones of the stone. Now I begin adding the first layer of atmospheric reflections. I lightly touch the upper facets with soft curved strokes. These are not sharp highlights yet, they are bloomy, misty reflections. The kind you see on polished stones catching indirect light. I make small rounded patches of light that follow the direction of the planes, as if the stone is catching glow from the sky or surrounding environment. I keep all strokes soft and subtle, letting them blend naturally into the base colors. The key is subtlety. This step creates depth and atmosphere, but it should never overpower the structure. These reflections are not the main sparkle thing of them, as a first hint of light, giving the stone a sense of volume and a smoother surface before we add the stronger highlights later. If you feel like you're adding too much, you probably are, so it's better to build them up gradually. You can always add more, but removing them will flatten your surface again. Now we add the strongest, brightest point of the entire gemstone. The one detail that instantly makes it feel polished, glossy and alive. I switch back to color dodge screen or a soft round brush with very low opacity, around 10–15%. This keeps the light clean and prevents the highlight from turning moody. The color I use here is almost pure white, but I mix in just a hint of the stone's base color so the highlight blends naturally into the gemstone instead of sitting on top like a sticker. I place this highlight on the facet that faces the light source most directly. This spot should be small, tight and concentrated, almost like a drop of light sitting on the surface. Here is what I focus on. The highlight is sharpest at the center and softly fades out at the edges. It should contrast strongly with the darker planes around it to create that glass hit by light effect. I sometimes tap the brush lightly instead of dragging it. A single tap can create a perfect glossy dot. If your stone has a irregular or angled facet, shape the highlight to match it. A highlight that follows the geometry makes the gemstone feel more solid. This tiny detail carries a lot of visual weight. It's the signature sparkle, the thing the eye jump to first, and it instantly pushes the depth and realism of the gem. Once this highlight is in place, I usually hide or delete the original sketch layer. By this point, the structure, shadows and planes are all clear enough that the sketch is no longer needed, and removing it lets the colors and lighting stand out clearly. This step marks the transition from a shaped object to a finished gemstone, the moment it truly starts to look polished and dimensional. Time for the finishing touches. The small details that makes the gemstone looks truly finished. With a thin hard edges brush, I start on outlining just a few of the gemstone's facets. I don't trace all of them, that would make the gem look too cartoony or over-defined. Instead, I choose 3 or 4 strategic edges, usually the ones catching the most light, and gently sharpen them. These subtle lines accents help define the geometry and makes the facets feel crisp without flattening the overall form. Next, I add the signature sparkle. One main bright white star-like sparkles placed near the strongest highlight. Then I add 1 or 2 tiny secondary sparkles close by, just little dots or short strokes. These micro highlights imitate scattered reflections and instantly boost the gem's realism. It's a small details, but it gives the gem that high polish, freshly cleaned look. From here, you can do some optional fine-tuning. Boost the contrast a bit to deepen the reds and give the gemstone more drama. Add a soft blurred shadow underneath to make it sit in space and feel grounded. Slightly adjust the hue, saturation or brightness if you want the gemstone to feel warmer, colder or more vibrant. Once these small tweaks are done, the transformation is complete. You now have a beautiful deep glowing red gemstone with dimension, sparkle and life. Thanks so much for watching this tutorial. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me what you would like to learn next. It really supports the channel and helps me create more content for you. You can also follow me on Instagram for more art, behind the scenes process and updates. And don't forget to check out the rest of my CG art tutorials right here on the channel. Thanks again for being here. See you in the next video. Bye.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the wind cry